welcome to the Book of Life's Thanksgiving Shout-Out Special. Today I'm giving thanks for all the wonderful people who've given me interviews and for all you listeners out there who make podcasting so much fun. We're going to hear from musician Todd Herzog, from illustrator Maryann Kovalski, and from listeners like you. Let's start with a shout-out for Libby Cohen, who wrote in from the National Institute of Education in Singapore to say she was enjoying the podcast and the blog. It's great to know you're listening, Libby. Thanks for writing. And now, take a moment from your Thanksgiving preparations to relax with some beautiful music from Todd Herzog.
Every step I've taken since the world's been turning has brought me one step closer to the truth. Every step I've taken on this long, long journey has brought me to this moment right here with you.
Todd Herzog is a singer-songwriter who creates spiritual pop music, much of it with a Jewish twist. An ongoing theme in Todd's music is being thankful for whatever life offers you. So in the spirit of Thanksgiving, I wanted to introduce you to his work. I spoke to Todd by phone at his home in Phoenix, Arizona.
That every step I've taken since the world's been turning has brought me one step closer to the truth.
Todd, how would you define your musical style?
I would define my musical style as acoustic, spiritual pop music. It's based on mainstream influences like Jason Mraz and John Mayer and Five for Fighting, but it just deals with more spiritual and soulful topics.
Tell us about your first album, What I Wouldn't Give.
The first album that I wrote was written after Rachel, my girlfriend of a long time, passed away from leukemia. And the music was really written as a way for me to come to terms with what had happened. A lot of the songs were actually written during her struggle. It was the first time in my life that I'd really come up against like a life and death type situation, particularly someone who I cared deeply about. So a lot of the songs on that album deal with healing and grief. Even though it's an album that's based on grief, it's not depressing. It's more life-affirming and coming through the other side of dealing with such a monumental kind of experience like that.
Your second album, Proverbs, forges a connection between personal spirituality and organized religion. Tell us more about that.
When I grew up, I was bar mitzvahed at 13 and then basically said, I've had enough. I don't see how this applies to me. And then I left the fold, so to speak, and didn't really make a connection to that organized part of the religion until much later on. I met a gentleman named Dr. Bruce Powell, and to me, Bruce is someone who really exudes the true values of what it is to be Jewish, to be a mensch. I taught instrumental music at the New Community Jewish High School for a couple of years, and he was insistent that the kids incorporate Jewish texts and Jewish ideas into the compositions that we were doing with the class. So I began giving myself the same kinds of assignments. So that became the seed idea for the Proverbs album. The first song I wrote was based on the text from Esa Enai, which says literally, I lift my eyes to the mountains. From where will my help come? My help will come from God. So I wrote the song Eyes to Heaven and used some of the imagery from that text. And then I took other quotes like from Hillel, if I am not for myself, who will be for me? If I'm only for myself, what am I? And if not now, when? And I took that and created a song called If I Am Not for Myself. And the challenge, I guess, has been to take those words and make it accessible both to myself and hopefully to my audience. So in this case, I applied those words to the context of a relationship. Where does the borderline between myself and my beloved end, and how do I maintain my sense of self while still compromising I tried to put those thoughts into the song. So music has really led me back into understanding of some of those writings and some of the deep wisdom that is contained within the Jewish religion.
On your MySpace page, we can hear several Jewish pieces, and you've done a lot of performing in Jewish venues. Do you have a Judaic CD in the works?
Yes, I've written new songs based on Jewish liturgy. One of them is a Tree of Life song, and one of them is a prayer for healing. Another one is a song about peace. Some of them will have Hebrew in the choruses. Some of them will continue to be all in English, but all of them will have Jewish content.
What do you hope that listeners will take away with them from your music?
My greatest hope is that listeners will take away an appreciation for their lives. Some of the greatest feedback that I've gotten was from people who said that they were going through a really difficult time in their lives and they had lost somebody, and that my music gave them hope and a sense that there was a light at the end of the tunnel. And that really reminds me again why I'm doing this. I guess that would be my goal, is for people to feel peaceful, for people to feel enlightened, maybe to have them look at a situation in a slightly new way, and to give people an appreciation for their lives, and just not to take any moment or any person in their lives for granted.
Todd Herzog, thanks so much for speaking with us.
Thank you, Heidi. My pleasure.
If I am not for myself, who on earth would be for me? And if I'm in this thing alone, what kind of person would I be? What would it take for you to see?
Time for a shout-out to mystery writer Neil Plakey in Hollywood, Florida. After the July 2007 interview with Perry Noskin-Teichert about her mystery The Clovis Incident, Neil wrote in to say, "You've prompted me to consider the Jewish elements in my own writing. My protagonists have almost always been Jewish, at least culturally, except in my mystery series, which is set in Hawaii and features a multi-ethnic protagonist. But I wonder how much of my own Jewish identity and beliefs have made it into these mysteries. I'll have to consider that. Thanks for a thought-provoking blog." And thank you, Neil, for writing in. I've got a Thanksgiving treat for all you library lovers out there. On November 21st, 2007, I'm holding a Blogathon for the Feldman Library, home base of the Book of Life. The blog will include a lot of fun library-related music and video, as well as interviews with book lovers and authors. I'll be adding material throughout the day, so check back whenever you get a chance at cbiboca.blogspot.com. Thanks, and happy Thanksgiving! I'd like to give a shout-out to Allison Epstein, librarian at Har Shalom in Durango, Colorado. She wrote in to say, "I had a great time yesterday catching up in the library and had all the past podcast episodes playing as I worked. We are just adding all the Sidney Taylor Award winners, so it was especially timely to hear all the interviews with the authors. Also, my husband is a banjo player, so I enjoyed that klezmer banjo guy from Sacramento." Thanks for writing, Allison. I bet the Freilach makers are also glad to hear that you enjoyed their music. Now let's take a look at a modern Thanksgiving classic. Rivka's First Thanksgiving, written by Elsa Ocon-Rail and illustrated by Maryann Kovalski, won the Sidney Taylor Book Award in 2001. It's the story of a Jewish immigrant family, unsure whether that newfangled Thanksgiving holiday that Americans celebrate is something that Jews should participate in. Rivka takes a stand to help her family and her rabbi see that giving thanks is a natural for Jews in the New World. I spoke to illustrator Maryann Kovalski by phone at her home in Toronto. Maryann, what engaged you about the story of Rivka's First Thanksgiving when you first read the manuscript?
What really moved me was the setting. I have a visceral feeling for the Lower East Side and for all the immigrants who came, because my father was raised about a block away from Rivington Street, where Rivka takes place. So, to have an opportunity to be able to put these images down in a book was very, very exciting. And I'm a sucker for the immigrant experience anyway.
Tell us how you recreated the tenements of the Lower East Side.
Well, I did a lot of walking, and I also used photographs. I went to the Tenement Museum. I made sketches when I was there. That's what I do with a book. I'll go to the place and I'll just walk around and I'll look, and then I sort of stuff it all in my mind, and then I sit down and it all comes out again.
Are there any secrets hidden in the illustrations, for instance, characters that look like people you know or things like that?
A little bit. I mean, the grandmother is my doctor. I've used him before, and my doctor's a man. Very, very fond of him.
There's a scene where Rivka describes the pogroms of the old country when she's explaining why the Jewish immigrants are thankful to live in America and should celebrate Thanksgiving. Was that scene difficult to illustrate? Did you have to do anything special to soften its impact?
Yes, that was difficult because I don't often think too overly about my audience and that, I want to do this to please them. Oh, they'll love this, all that, because that's second guessing. However, this is a children's picture book. 5-year-olds are reading this. You have to walk delicately. So what I try to do is to soften it, to make it like a dream or a memory. I think that there's a lot less black in it, and when I'm looking at it from the technique point of view, it's not as realistic in terms of proportion as the others. The technique is different. The hand is different than the other illustrations.
Where did your own family originally immigrate from?
Well, I'm a real nut. I mean, they came from Ireland, they came from Poland, they came from Russia, they came from Italy. So I'm a real Lower East Side amalgam of all of these different people coming from different places.
Did that personal history help you in any way as you created Rivka's family?
Definitely. I mean, because I think the immigrant experience of that period, suffering that they went through in the sense of hope and longing, having heard that from my own grandmother and knowing that my father lived in an apartment like this, of course it affected tremendously. It is sweet, the story of thankfulness. It's a very moving story, I think.
Maryann Kovalski, thanks so much for speaking with us, and happy Thanksgiving.
And thank you so much for inviting me to talk about Rivka again, and happy Thanksgiving to you and to all of you.
I'd like to give a combined shout-out to an author and a listener who connected through the podcast. Back in February 2007, I interviewed Rita Golden-Gelman about her picture book, Queen Esther Saves Her People. But her more recent book for adults is Tales of a Female Nomad about her own travels. Listener Muriel Efren in West Palm Beach, Florida, has also traveled widely and worked in countries as far-flung as Australia, Israel, and Bermuda. Muriel wrote to Rita, saying, "Your life is an inspiration, and I plan to tell other people about you." Rita wrote back to tell Muriel that she sounded like a pretty amazing person herself. Thanks to both Muriel and Rita for sharing their correspondence with me. And thanks for kind words from Marie Cloutier of the Boston Bibliophile, Suzanne LaRosa of New South Books, Larry Grossman of the Jewish Webcasting Service, Andrea Rapp of Temple Wise in Cincinnati, and for postings on the blogs Planet Esme, Sensations, Blog in D Minor, and BookBuds. In December, we'll hear an interview with Barbara Bates, author of Like a Maccabee, Kidlit blogger, and a brand new member of the Sidney Taylor Book Award Committee. She wrote me with some podcast feedback, too. She said that the October 2007 interview with Jo Taylor Marshall, Sidney Taylor's daughter, actually gave her chills. Wow, that's the kind of reaction podcasters dream about. Thanks, Barbara. Now you know we would love to hear from you. So email bookoflifepodcast@gmail.com, post a comment on our website, or if your computer has a microphone, leave a 2-minute voice message by clicking on the voicemail link on our website at bookoflifepodcast.com. The Book of Life is supported in part by the Association of Jewish Libraries, tending the tree of knowledge and promoting Jewish reading by supporting Judaic libraries and librarians. Visit them on the web at jewishlibraries.org. Our background music is provided by the Freilich Makers Klezmer String Band from Sacramento, California, whose CDs feature upbeat music from Ashkenazic and Sephardic traditions with Brazilian, Gypsy, and Celtic influences. Borrow their CDs at the Feldman Library or buy your own copies at freilichmakers.com. The song Library Lover is copyright 2006 by Brian Smith and can be found at laughинglibrarian.com. To download episodes of the Book of Life podcast, visit us on the web at bookoflifepodcast.com. That's a new address. Our old one, jewishbooks.blogspot.com, does still work. Links to the books and CDs mentioned on the show are available on our website. You can also hear the latest episode by phone. Just call 916-313-3820. Thanks for listening. Happy Thanksgiving and happy reading.